In the heart of the city, a vibrant park pulsed with the energy of families gathering under the warmth of the sun. Amid laughter, playful antics, and the smell of fresh popcorn, John walked slowly, observing the scene around him. He was a 30-year-old white man with dark brown hair and blue eyes that reflected in restless curiosity. That day, he was seeking a moment of relaxation after a stressful week of work at an accounting firm. The park was his refuge, a place where he could lose himself in thought and perhaps find something more. It was when he passed by a small playground that his eyes fell upon an extraordinary woman. Emily was a black woman, with radiant skin and curly hair that danced in the wind. She was surrounded by 3 children who laughed and played, while she watched them with a look of tenderness and strength. John felt a lump form in his throat as he witnessed the way she interacted with the children. There was something special about her presence, an aura of resilience that captivated him instantly. "Look at this. Let's climb the climbing structure," the woman encouraged, pointing to the colorful structure where the children were running. Their voices were like music, filling the air with joy. John couldn't take his eyes off her. He felt like an intruder, yet at the same time drawn in by the passion she demonstrated in caring for her children. "Do you mind if I join you?" he found himself asking, before the thought that he might be intruding on a family moment could stop him. Emily turned, surprised, but her smile was warm. "Of course. The more, the merrier. Come help catch the little ones before they decide to climb to the sky," she replied, laughing. The lightness in her voice was contagious, and John didn't think twice before stepping closer. He began playing with the children, helping them on the climbing structure. "Hey, can you jump to that bar over there?" he challenged one of the boys, who looked at him with wide eyes and a mischievous smile. Laughter echoed in the air, and happiness seemed to float around them like a protective cloak. As the children played, John and Emily exchanged knowing glances. "You really know how to liven up a crowd," she commented, admiring his interaction with the kids. "They love a bit of adventure. I've always been like that. A little adventurous and a little mischievous," he replied, winking at the children, who were now anticipating a new challenge. The conversation flowed naturally between them, as if they had known each other for a long time. John discovered that Emily was a strong woman who had faced immense challenges to raise her children alone. Her story was marked by resilience and love, and every word that came from her lips made John's heart race a little faster. "You are an amazing mother," he said, admiring the way she devoted herself to the children. "How do you manage to do all this on your own?" "Oh, it's not easy," Emily replied, a glimmer of determination in her eyes. "But they are my world. I do what I can to ensure they have a better future." John felt an instant connection. He knew that Emily's life wasn't simple. There was something in her struggle that touched him deeply. "If you need help, I want you to know that I'm here," he said, almost without thinking. "Thank you. That means a lot," she replied, a genuine smile lighting up her face. "Sometimes, it's nice to have someone to share with." Time passed, and soon the afternoon began to transform into twilight. The shadows of the trees stretched, and the park started to empty. John and Emily were still immersed in their conversations, laughing and sharing life stories, as if the world around them had disappeared. "What's your name?" Emily asked, finally realizing she still didn't know who this man was who had entered her life so unexpectedly. "John." "Nice to meet you, Emily," he replied, extending his hand. The touch between them was brief, but intense. A spark seemed to ignite, and both felt it. "You should give me your number. That way, we can meet again," he suggested, a little nervous but determined. "Sure. I'd love that," she replied, pulling out her phone and typing quickly. After exchanging numbers, the children, now tired, began tugging at Emily, asking to go home. John looked up at the sky, noticing the sun was already setting on the horizon, painting everything with a golden hue. "Well, see you later, John," Emily said, with a smile on her face that made his heart race. "It was really nice to meet you." "See you later, Emily." "I hope we can see each other again soon," he replied, watching her as she walked away, with the children around her. He felt a mix of emotion and anticipation. The connection they had formed was palpable, and he knew this was just the beginning. When he got home, the smile on John's face was unmistakable. He sat at the table with his friends, who were ready to hear about his day. But as he shared about Emily, he noticed looks of disapproval and murmurs among them. "Are you serious?" A black woman with 3 kids, one of them, a longtime friend, asked incredulously. "Yeah, and she's amazing," John replied, defending his new friend. "She's strong, dedicated, and her kids are great. But man, think about what your family will think." "This isn't going to end well," another friend added, with a worried expression. "I don't care," John said, deciding in that moment that he would follow his heart. "She's a wonderful person, and I want to get to know her better." His friend's words hit him, but he felt more determined than ever. He wasn't about to let prejudice and others' opinions stop him from pursuing something that could be special. The image of Emily, with her smile and the strength she radiated, wouldn't leave his mind. As the night wore on, John lay in bed, still thinking about the day. The connection he felt with Emily was real and powerful. He wondered what the future would hold if he truly allowed himself to follow this path, despite the differences that existed between them. Life was about to change, and he was willing to face any challenge that might arise. Love, as he learned that day, could overcome barriers that many considered insurmountable. Emily was in a dilemma, her heart pulsing between expectation and apprehension. The idea of introducing John to her children made her uneasy. She knew that the world outside might not be as welcoming as the one they had built together. Sitting on her couch, with the kids playing in the background, she reflected on what could happen. The image of John, his warm smile and the sparkle in his eyes, wouldn't leave her mind. But what if they didn't accept him? What if prejudice spoke louder? "You're thinking again," said Layla, her best friend, pulling her out of her introspection. Layla had a straightforward way that always made her step out of her comfort zone. "You like him, and he likes you. Isn't that what matters?" Emily sighed, looking at the children running down the hallway, joyful and carefree. "What if they don't accept him?" "They're my kids, Layla. I don't want them to be confused or hurt. John is wonderful, but what if they don't feel good about it?" Layla moved closer, holding Emily's hands. "You're letting your fears control you. Talk to them. Explain. They need to understand that love comes in many forms. And you know John is a good man. He just wants to make you all happy." Layla's words echoed in Emily's mind. All she wanted was to see her children happy, but that couldn't happen if she didn't give them the chance to meet John. "You're right, I know. But am I ready for this?" "You'll never be 100% ready, but you need to try. Let's do this. A picnic in the park. Invite John and the kids. And you can see how everything flows from there." With her heart a little lighter, Emily decided it was time to take the step. She grabbed her phone and, with a mix of anxiety and hope, sent a message to John. "Hi, John. How about a picnic in the park on Saturday? I can bring the kids too." The response came quickly. "Hi, Emily. I'd love to. Can I bring some food? What do you guys like? Sandwiches and fruits would be great. And a little juice. Perfect. I'm looking forward to meeting your kids." The next few hours flew by as Emily prepared for the picnic. She wanted everything to be perfect. She chose a light dress, one that allowed her to move freely while playing with the kids. On Saturday, the sun shone brightly, and the sky was blue, as if the universe was conspiring in their favor. At the park, Emily arrived first, with the kids running excitedly around while she spread the blanket over the green grass. Anxiety tightened her chest, but the smiles of her children and the warmth of the sun encouraged her. Soon, John appeared, carrying a basket full of goodies. "Hi, everyone," he waved, his smile lighting up the area. Emily's children stopped, looking at him with curiosity. "I'm John. And you must be Emily's amazing kids." The little ones exchanged glances, a bit shy, but John's warm energy was contagious. "Hi," replied Lucas, the oldest, with a hesitant smile. Emily watched the interaction, her heart beating fast. She knew first impressions were crucial. John squatted down, looking into the children's eyes. "What do you like to do?" "I brought a frisbee, and we can play together after we eat." "Mom, can we play?" asked Sophia, the middle child, already enchanted by the idea. "Of course, sweetie," Emily replied, feeling relieved to see their excitement. "Let's eat first." As they sat down to share the snack, the conversation flowed naturally. John told funny stories from his childhood, and the kids laughed, gradually relaxing. The atmosphere was light, but Emily couldn't ignore the glances from some park-goers. Whispers and murmurs reached her ears, as if prejudice was lurking, ready to strike. After the meal, John and the kids ran to the field, throwing the frisbee and laughing while Emily watched, her heart warmed by the scene. But the joy was interrupted when a group of people approached, casting hostile looks. "What are you doing with him?" a woman asked Emily, her expression one of disdain. "Don't you realize this is wrong?" Emily felt heat rising in her face. "We're having fun, that's all. He's a good person." "Good person? Look at him," the woman exclaimed, gesturing dramatically. "Do you really think this is normal?" John sensed the tension and stepped forward, frisbee in hand. "Hi, is everything okay? We're just having fun. There's no reason for hostility." The group dispersed, but the atmosphere had changed. Emily looked at John, and he smiled, trying to keep the spirits up. "Let's keep playing. Life is too short to care about what others think." However, the seed of doubt had been planted in Emily's mind. As the picnic came to an end and the kids started to tire, she couldn't help but think about what she had heard. John was everything she had ever wanted, but society still wasn't ready to accept their love. That night, while the kids slept, Emily sat at the kitchen table, reflecting on the day. She picked up her phone and texted Layla. "It was fun, but people still look at us strangely. I'm worried about what this might mean for my kids." The response came quickly. "Don't let fear stop you from following your heart. Love is stronger than any prejudice. And you're not alone. I'm here to support you." Emily took a deep breath, feeling a bit stronger. She knew the road ahead would be tough, but the love she felt for John was genuine. She was willing to fight for it. Deep down, she understood that change didn't happen overnight and that love could indeed dismantle barriers. Her thoughts were interrupted by the sound of the door opening. It was John, who had come back to grab some things he had forgotten. He looked at Emily, his eyes shining, and she realized that despite all the challenges, he was willing to face whatever came their way. "Hi, I just wanted to check if you were okay," he said, with a gentle smile. "The day was amazing, wasn't it?" "It was," Emily replied, her heart warming at the sight of him. "It's just, some people didn't accept us well. I don't care about them. What matters is that we're together and that the kids loved it." He stepped closer, holding her hands. "I want you to know that I'm with you, no matter what happens." Emily smiled, feeling a wave of gratitude. "Thank you, John. That means a lot to me. We'll face this together." "For sure," he said, looking into her eyes. "Let's show that love is stronger than any prejudice." And so, with renewed determination, they prepared to face whatever came their way. Their love was a flame that could not be extinguished, and together, they were ready to fight for their place in this world. John and Emily were determined to overcome the challenges that lay ahead of them. After the hostility they had faced in their recent encounters, they decided to organize a family dinner. It was an attempt to unite the two families, a significant step that could strengthen their relationship, but it could also become a battlefield for the prejudices that still permeated the hearts of many. That night, the smell of roasted chicken and mashed potatoes filled John's house. He was in the kitchen, preparing everything with care, while his mind was racing. He knew that Emily's presence and that of her children was crucial for the success of that night, but he was also aware that the tension between the families could erupt at any moment. Emily's children, Junior, Sophia, and Miguel, were excited as it was their first time visiting John's house. He wanted the experience to be perfect. "Are you nervous?" his sister, Amanda, asked as she entered the kitchen with an ironic smile. She was smoothing her hair and putting on a dress that, according to her, was suitable for the occasion. "A little," he replied, trying to stay calm. "I hope everything goes well. I don't want them to feel uncomfortable. You know it's a dinner, not an interrogation, right? Relax, John. Just be yourself," she said, winking. "And remember, their eyes will be on you." He knew Amanda was right, but the idea of his family and Emily's children being under the same roof made him uneasy. He wanted everyone to see what he saw in Emily, a strong, loving woman full of life. Shortly after, the doorbell rang, interrupting his thoughts. "It's Emily!" Amanda exclaimed, running to open the door. John felt a flutter in his stomach. When the door opened, he saw Emily, in a floral dress that highlighted her beauty and strength. Her 3 children were by her side, each holding a dessert they had prepared together. "Hi, family!" Emily exclaimed with a smile, her eyes sparkling with joy. The children followed her, waving and smiling. "We brought something sweet for dessert. I hope you like it." "Of course. Let's put everything on the table," Amanda replied, while helping to settle the kids. John smiled at the interaction between his sister and Emily's children. It was a promising start. The dinner began calmly, with laughter and conversations about school and each other's interests. John made an effort to include everyone in the conversation, but the tension was palpable. When the subject started to shift to hobbies and extracurricular activities, John's grandmother, who was present, couldn't contain her opinions. "So, what do you do in your free time, Junior?" she asked, addressing Emily's oldest son. "I like to play soccer and video games, ma'am," Junior replied, a bit hesitant. "Soccer? What a thing! I didn't know you played, and what's the name of your school again?" John's grandmother seemed to be searching for something in the boy's words, something she could use to draw a parallel that didn't exist. "It's the Municipal School of São Lucas," Junior replied, swallowing hard. "Oh, well, it must be interesting. I hope you have good friends there," the grandmother said, looking at John with a disapproving glance. "What do you mean by that, Grandma?" John intervened, feeling uncomfortable. "He has amazing friends, good people. I'm just saying it's important to know who you're hanging out with." "Sometimes, the influences aren't good," the grandmother insisted, unaware of the impact her words had. "Grandma, please. It's not fair to make assumptions about Junior," Emily finally spoke, her voice firm yet controlled. "He's a wonderful boy and deserves respect." The tension in the room escalated. John felt torn between defending the woman he loved and keeping the peace in his house. He looked at Emily, admiring her courage but also worried about his family's reaction. I just want everyone to feel comfortable here," John said, trying to calm things down. "Let's talk about something else. How about we discuss what we're going to do next weekend?" But Grandma wasn't satisfied. "No, John. We need to talk about this. What are you doing with this woman? Are you sure your kids will feel good about this?" Disapproving looks began to spread across the table, and the atmosphere that was once joyful turned into a battlefield. Voices started to rise, and soon the smell of roasted chicken was overshadowed by the tension in the air. "I'm not just this woman. I'm the mother of my children and deserve to be treated with respect." Emily stood up, her face red with indignation. The children watched her, confused and worried. "That's not what I want for you, Emily. I just care," John's grandmother retorted, trying to justify her words. "Caring doesn't justify offending someone. If you can't accept our relationship, maybe it's better if we're not here," Emily responded, her voice trembling with emotion. The children began to fidget, realizing the situation was deteriorating. "Come on, everyone, let's take a walk outside," John suggested, trying to ease the mood. "We need to breathe a little." He led Emily and the children to the garden, leaving the judging looks behind. The cool night air helped to calm the nerves, but frustration and sadness were still present. John sat on a bench next to Emily, who was clearly shaken. "I'm sorry about this. I didn't expect things to go this way," he started, feeling guilty. "John, I don't know if this is going to work," Emily said, tears welling in her eyes. "I don't want my children to go through this. They deserve a safe and loving environment. I understand, but we can't let this prejudice defeat us. We need to be stronger than this," he tried to convince her. "I love you and want this to work. We can overcome this together." It's easy to say, but the reality is harsh. "My kids are in the middle of this, and I don't want them to feel the weight of what happened today," Emily replied, her voice breaking. "Let's take some time, maybe that will help us clear our minds," he suggested hesitantly. He didn't want to distance himself from her, but the fight had opened a wound that needed healing. Maybe that's the best option," she agreed, looking at the ground. "I just hope we can find a solution for this." Both fell silent, reflecting on the relationship they had built and the future they desired. The love they felt was strong, but the barriers they still needed to face seemed increasingly challenging. John knew he had to do more than just wait, he needed to act. As he walked alone through the streets that night, John's mind was racing with thoughts. He saw a group of young people on a corner, laughing and playing. But as he approached, he realized a disagreement had started. One of the young men, a black boy, was being harassed by another group. The scene, though not new, hit John like a punch in the stomach. He stopped, watching the injustice unfold before him, and felt a wave of determination grow inside him. It was time to use his voice. "Hey! What are you doing?" John shouted, crossing the street toward the group. All eyes turned to him, and the tension rose. "This isn't right. No one deserves to be treated like that. You don't know what this person is going through. Who are you to interfere?" one of the young men asked, challengingly. "I'm someone who believes that everyone should be treated with dignity and respect, regardless of skin color," John replied, his voice steady. "If you can't understand that, you need to rethink your actions." The situation was about to spiral out of control, but one of the young men, who had been the target of the hostility, looked at John with a mix of surprise and gratitude. "Thanks, man. That means a lot." John realized he was on the right path. He couldn't stay silent in the face of injustice. He needed to fight, not just for Emily but for everyone facing discrimination. This was the time to be the change he wished to see, and he was determined to do it. John was nervous, but the determination in his heart was stronger than any uncertainty. He ran his fingers through his hair as he looked at the screen of his phone, where the words he had typed seemed to dance before his eyes. His social media post was ready, and with each passing second, he hesitated a little longer before clicking the publish button. He knew he was about to share his story, the story of a love that defied the expectations and prejudices of a society that wasn't ready to accept it. "Go ahead, John. You need to do this," said his sister, Sarah, who was by his side, watching him with a look of support and concern. She had heard all about his relationship with Emily and was well aware of the challenges they faced. "People need to hear the truth. You and Emily deserve to be heard. And what if the reaction is negative? What if people don't understand?" John questioned, his voice trembling. He remembered the disapproving looks he had received from his friends and his mother. It was a weight that followed him, but at the same time, the image of Emily and their children motivated him to move forward. "And what if people do understand? What if what you say helps others going through the same thing?" Sarah replied, a spark in her eyes. "You need to believe in the love you feel. That is stronger than any prejudice." With a deep breath, John finally clicked publish. As soon as he did, a wave of emotions washed over him. He began typing a message about how he met Emily, about her strength, about their kids, and how, despite the difficulties, their love was real and powerful. He shared his hopes, his fears, and the desire to build a life together despite the barriers they faced. Love has no color. Love is about connection, respect, and understanding, he wrote, feeling his heart race. Breaking barriers is what truly matters. Little did John know that within minutes, his post would start to go viral. Notifications began popping up on his phone, and he was stunned to see so many people commenting, liking, and sharing. He and Sarah exchanged looks of surprise and joy. What started as a personal outburst was turning into a movement. Meanwhile, on the other side of town, Emily was at home, helping her kids with their homework. Laughter and playfulness filled the air, but the tension surrounding her love life still lingered. She looked at her phone and saw several messages from friends and acquaintances commenting on John's post. "Did you see this?" asked her friend, Lisa, who was with her. "John just posted something amazing about you guys. It's blowing up." Emily frowned, worried. "I don't know, Lisa. This could bring more problems than solutions. People can be cruel. But there are good people too, Emily. Look at how many supportive messages are coming in. This could be what you needed." Lisa replied enthusiastically. With a heavy heart, Emily decided to check the post. As she read John's words, she felt touched. It was as if he had put into words everything she felt but had never dared to express. Tears streamed down her face as she absorbed the warmth radiating from the message. "He really cares," she murmured to herself, feeling a mix of love and fear. "This could work. We can face this together." The following days were a whirlwind. The city was divided. Many supported John and Emily, sharing their own stories of love and acceptance. Others, however, expressed their disapproval and prejudice, fueling a heated debate on social media. "It's a shame this is happening in our city," said a man in a video that went viral, taking a stand against the relationship. "We cannot allow the morals of our community to disintegrate like this." But in contrast, support groups began to organize. "Love is love. It doesn't matter what color your skin is," they shouted at a peaceful protest that took over a local park where John and Emily had met. It was in this fervent atmosphere that John and Emily received an invitation to participate in a community event. The idea was for them to share their experiences and promote unity among the city's different ethnicities. Upon reading the invitation, Emily's heart raced. "John, do you really want to do this?" she asked, nervous. "This could be very confrontational. I feel like we need to do this. We have to show that love can overcome hate," John replied, holding her hand. "And if we are brave, maybe we can inspire others to do the same." The event was scheduled for the following Saturday, and anticipation hung in the air. As they prepared, John and Emily met at a cafe, where they discussed what they would say. "We should be sincere. People need to understand that we're not just here for love, but for a bigger fight," John said, taking a sip of coffee. "You're right. But what if it doesn't change anything? What if it just makes things worse?" Emily retorted, her insecurity evident. "Let's believe it can change. Every voice matters, and ours might be the one that inspires someone else to stand up and speak too," he replied, looking into her eyes, conveying the confidence they both needed. "Okay, let's do this together," Emily agreed, with a shy smile. "If we're in this together, then I feel stronger." Throughout the week, the city continued to react to John's post and the invitation to the event. Support groups grew, and many joined them, creating a wave of solidarity. John and Emily began receiving messages from people who felt inspired by the couple's courage. However, anxiety also grew. Emily thought of their children and how they would react to seeing their mother exposed to an audience that could be hostile. "I just don't want them to suffer because of our choices," she told John in a later conversation. "We will do what we can to protect them. And know that they have you as an example." "You are an amazing mother," he replied, squeezing her hand encouragingly. When the day of the event finally arrived, the atmosphere was electrically charged. The chosen venue was a large auditorium, and the crowd was divided between supporters and opponents. John and Emily took the stage, hearts in their throats, but determined to speak. "We want to share our story," John began, his voice resonating in the room. We live in a society filled with prejudice, but we believe that love is stronger. We are not just a couple, we are a family, and we want our children to grow up in a world where love is celebrated, not condemned. Emily, still nervous, took the microphone and continued, "We are here to show that all colors, all ethnicities, have a place in this world. Our children should be taught to love and respect, not to judge. And it starts with us, adults, showing the way." Their words resonated in the room, and the reaction was mixed. While some applauded and supported, others remained silent, with disapproving looks. John and Emily knew they were just beginning a long journey, but they were ready to face it together. This is how their story unfolded, and they were determined to make a difference, not just for themselves, but for the entire community. The big day of the community event had finally arrived. The park, once a scene of hostile glances and malicious whispers, was now adorned with colorful flags and balloons dancing in the wind. John and Emily, side by side, felt the mix of anxiety and hope pulsing in their hearts. For the first time, their love would be celebrated publicly, not just tolerated. As they prepared, Emily looked at John and said, with a nervous smile, "Do you think people will really come? What if it all ends in more prejudice?" John, holding her hand firmly, replied, "If they come, it will be to celebrate our story. And if there are those who don't like it, we will show that love is stronger. We are doing this for ourselves and for our children." The event began with a brief opening speech from the organizer, who spoke about the importance of inclusion and respect. But the true highlight of the afternoon would be the presentation by John and Emily, which moved everyone with their sincerity. When they stepped onto the stage, silence filled the space. People waited expectantly, eager to hear the story that had touched so many hearts on social media. John took the microphone, his gaze sweeping over the crowd. "I never imagined that a simple post could change so much in my life and my family's life. I am an ordinary guy who found love where I least expected. Emily is not just the woman I love, she is the amazing mother of my children. Together, we face challenges that many cannot imagine." Emily, by his side, felt butterflies in her stomach, but the confidence emanating from John encouraged her to continue. "Our story is not just about love, but about overcoming. I am the mother of 3 children and, at the same time, a black woman who has often felt the weight of prejudice. But I found in John a partner, a friend, and an advocate. And today, we are here to show that love can overcome any barrier." Emily's words echoed in the air, and soon tears began to roll down the faces of some people in the audience. The impact of her story was palpable. There was a feeling of unity growing there, as if differences were being set aside, and everyone was one community. After the speech, the applause was thunderous. John and Emily, still somewhat surprised, exchanged knowing glances. It was a moment they would never forget. Among the applause, a familiar figure stood out, John's mother, who was in the audience, visibly emotional. She had not spoken up before, but now she seemed to be reflecting on everything she had heard. At the end of the event, as the crowd began to disperse, she approached Emily, hesitant. "Emily," she began, her voice trembling, I don't know how to apologize. I just wanted you to know that for a long time, I let my prejudices speak louder than my love for my son." Emily, surprised, felt a wave of compassion for the woman who had, until then, been a barrier in her life. "I understand, ma'am. We all have our beliefs and fears. But love has the power to transform us. I just want you to know that your acceptance means a lot to me and my children." The sincerity in Emily's words touched John's mother deeply. "I would like to get to know you and your children better. I want to understand your culture better and how I can be a better grandmother to my grandchildren. I can try, can't I?" The conversation between the two women was a milestone. John's mother, who had previously represented resistance, was now willing to open her heart and mind. Emily, with her generosity, accepted the invitation to become friends, taking a step forward in building a new family relationship. With the community united, John and Emily saw an opportunity to create something more lasting. With everyone's support, they began planning an inclusion and respect program aimed at bringing together people from different backgrounds and promoting the exchange of experiences. The goal was to create a safe space for dialogue and mutual understanding. During a meeting at John's house, where some community leaders were present, Emily made a bold proposal. What if we created an annual event that celebrated the diversity of our city? We could have lectures, cultural presentations, typical foods, giving space for everyone to share their stories. Eyes met, and the idea was met with enthusiasm. "This is wonderful, Emily," exclaimed one of the leaders. "We need more events like this. Let's make a diversity festival." John, watching the group's excitement, couldn't help but smile. "Let's make this happen. Together, we can show that our community is rich in stories and that each of us has a place here." As the meeting progressed, the atmosphere was charged with palpable optimism. However, John couldn't help but remember the difficulties they would still face. He looked at Emily and, in a whisper, said, "Do you think we're ready to face all this together?" Emily held his hand, her gaze steady. "I believe so. Together we are stronger, and this community needs to see that we are not here just to be tolerated, but to be celebrated." The days that followed were filled with planning and organization. The city was beginning to change, and the resistance that once seemed insurmountable was now being questioned. People who had previously kept their distance began to come together, and the spirit of solidarity spread like wildfire. But, as in any journey, there were still challenges to face. John and Emily were aware that, despite all the progress, prejudice would not disappear overnight. And the true test was yet to come. The launch event for the inclusion program was approaching, and they knew they needed to be prepared for any reaction. The hope for a better future pulsed in their hearts, but the shadow of doubt loomed over them. The community had taken significant steps, but the path to full acceptance was still fraught with obstacles. As they prepared for this new phase, the promise of love and unity became the driving force behind their lives, and the story of John and Emily continued to inspire everyone around them. Their love, which had blossomed amidst so many adversities, was now becoming a symbol of resistance and hope, showing that even in the face of differences, true connection can transform lives. The day of the launch of the Inclusion and Respect program had finally arrived. The sun shone brightly over the park, where John, Emily, and their children were organizing the final details of the event. Colorful banners adorned the area, and tables were set up with posters promoting diversity and unity. The children, excited, ran back and forth, helping to prepare the place, while John and Emily exchanged knowing glances, feeling the vibrant energy of the moment. However, behind this festive atmosphere, a cloud of tension hung in the air. Information about opposing groups planning to boycott the event had rapidly circulated on social media, and although security was heightened, uncertainty generated concerns. John, noticing Emily's worried expression, held her hand and said, "Love, we are here to make a difference. What matters is that we are together and that our love is stronger than any prejudice." Emily smiled, but anxiety was visible in her eyes. "I just hope things don't get out of control. Our children. They deserve a safe and welcoming environment. Let's show them that love always prevails," John replied, determination etched on his face. Meanwhile, the opposing group was gathering in one corner of the park. They were a loud minority, but their presence was undeniably intimidating. Some carried signs with offensive phrases while others murmured disapproving words. One of the group leaders, a burly man with a fierce look, shouted, "We will not allow this event to happen. This is an affront to the values of our city." Tension mounted as the event's start time approached. John, noticing that the crowd was beginning to cluster, decided it was time to make a speech. He stepped onto the small makeshift stage, drawing everyone's attention. "Everyone, I thank each one of you for being here today. We are here to celebrate love, diversity, and inclusion. This is our strength. We cannot allow hatred to divide us," he began, his voice firm and clear. As John spoke, Emily watched the crowd. Most of the people were attentive, but the presence of the opposing group created a tense atmosphere, as if a storm was about to erupt. With every word from John, she felt the urge to stand up and reinforce her strength, but hesitated. Today, we are not just talking about me and Emily. We are talking about all of us, about our community. Everyone deserves respect, love, and a place where they can feel safe, John continued, as some applause began to echo, but it was drowned out by the protest shouts coming from the other side of the park. "This is absurd," shouted the burly man, cutting off John's speech. "You are surrendering to an illusion. This is not love, it is an offense." At that moment, John's brother, Alex, who had been silent until then, stood up. He had always been the most skeptical about his brother's relationship, but something within him was changing. With a determined look, he approached John on stage. "I want to speak," he said, taking the microphone that John offered him. The crowd fell silent, all eyes now on Alex. He took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the words that needed to be said. "I know I haven't been the most supportive person. In fact, I've been on the wrong side of this story. I didn't understand my brother's love and what it really meant. But today, seeing them together, I realized that love has no color. Love is a feeling that unites, that strengthens. And if we are here, all together, it is because we believe that diversity is what makes our community richer and stronger." Alex's words resonated, creating a ripple effect among the crowd. Some people began to applaud, while others, incredulous, exchanged looks of astonishment. The burly man and his group, however, were not willing to relent. "You are being deceived. This is not love, it is a betrayal of our values," he shouted, but his voice was fading amid the applause that grew louder by the second. Emily felt a wave of emotion upon hearing Alex's words. She hadn't expected this kind of support from someone who had seemed so opposed to her happiness. Looking at John, she saw tears of joy in his eyes. "This is amazing," he whispered to her. He finally understood. "Yes, he understood," Emily replied, her voice choked. "And this is just the beginning." With the crowd now divided between supporters and opponents, John decided it was time to act. He addressed the group that was still protesting. "I understand that you may have your opinions, but I invite you to join us. Instead of rejecting, how about trying to understand? Love is not a weakness, it is our greatest strength." The burly man, now visibly irritated, advanced toward the stage. "You cannot simply ignore traditions. This is an affront." But before he could continue, the applause and shouts of support from those on John's side began to drown him out, rendering his voice insignificant. The community was coming together, and the positive energy was palpable. Emily's children, who were by her side, began to shout, "Love! Love! Love," and soon other children joined them, creating a chorus of hope. The atmosphere was changing. People started to hug each other, to support one another. Those who had previously been doubtful about John and Emily's relationship now felt inspired by the couple's courage and resilience. The event that was supposed to be a battleground became a celebration of diversity, empathy, and love. As the crowd united, John and Emily exchanged glances, knowing they had achieved a crucial moment in their journey. "We can do this," John said with a wide smile. "We can change all of this." And so, under the sunlight, with the sound of voices intertwining in a hymn of love and acceptance, the community came together in a great symbolic embrace, demonstrating that together, they could overcome any barrier. It was a new beginning, a day of celebration, and hope was finally reborn in the city.